Then
Great.
you're set.
We're all set to go. Okay, I just want to go ahead and welcome everyone to the October 13th Yellcrest Neighborhood Council meeting. So good to see so many of you. What a beautiful fall we're having. I hope you're getting out and looking at the colors and biking and hiking and gardening or whatever you like to do right now, but we're having a just gorgeous fall. I want to welcome our guests and our speakers and presenters. Thank you so much for being with us. And without further ado, we're so glad to have Dan Dugan back with us. Dan, you've been on some other responsibilities that you've had out of town and family matters, etc. So we're glad that you're with us tonight. And so glad to have Hannah. And we're going to start out with our two government stars and get our meeting off to a great start. And Dan, you're first, and then Hannah, you're up next. And we'll go to that point, and we are recording.
Great. Thank you very much, Jan. Appreciate it. And it's great to be here tonight. And you're right, it is some nice days. So spend some time outside. I do want rain, but it's kind of nice to have this nice weather outside so we can go for a walk. Yeah, it's a toss up there, but it's nice. City front, you know, we're looking at, we're still working hard with the county and the state on the homeless issues and permanent supportive care and the issues revolving around that. It's a full court press. We're trying to do a lot of stuff now, also early before the legislative session hits, so we can hit that early and quickly so we can get things moving. We do have some overflow shelters that will be opening up in the end of probably close to mid-November. And then we're looking at some more permanent supportive housing come early springtime. The affordable housing overlay, I know that's got a lot of people concerns. You know, it's still going to the planning commission. I've been asking people when they think we're going to see that. I don't think that's going to come to us until, I think, January by the earliest, because you first of all have the planning commission has to do their thing, then there's a public process. So I don't think that's going to be for a little while. We will be looking at the shared housing RMF 30, and the RMF 30 won't impact us. We only have a very few slices of RMF 30. Most of those are on Foothill, right. And so that's coming, but it's not really going to affect us. And the off-street parking is really not going to affect us at this point. There is a developer who's looking at the First Congressional Church on Sunnyside, on Foothill, and boy, I should know the intersection of that. The Foothill, just
almost 21st South, Dan.
Yeah, it's almost 21st South. It's just side of the other Foothill apartment complex. So he is going to reach out to Sunnyside, the Sugar House Council. I've asked the East Bench if they could see if he could also do a presentation from the East Bench side. Their East Bench and Ellen and the developer are, I think, trying to figure out a time when they're going to meet, if they're going to meet, or how that's going to happen. So that's in works. We also have some work going on in Foothill, hopefully next year, at the intersection of Kensington and Foothill on a crosswalk there, a protected crosswalk area. So that's coming from UDOT, and I'm excited about all the work that's going to be going on in Foothill, hopefully in the next few years, and really making the southbound right-hand turns going down some of those streets safer for the neighborhoods and for drivers and pedestrians. We're still pushing hard on the street calming initiatives that we got going on. I've asked about signs at different intersections, and I just need to readdress that with John Larson and see if we can get some of those, crosswalk signs in the middle of the intersection so we can remind people to slow down. There's And then I'm busy doing a few other things, but that's the main issues right now that we got going on. If you got any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer those.
The shelter overlay. The homeless shelter overlay.
I haven't heard from anything yet on that one. That hasn't come to us yet, so that means that they're still working on that. So there hasn't been anything coming to the council yet.
But you don't know the timing.
The timing. No, I don't have a good sense of the timing. We have only a few more meetings left in the new year, until the new year. And so if you look at our 18 October meeting agenda, it's packed full.
Yeah.
And so we have a couple more. We actually had to move a meeting to a Thursday because we have some council members who are traveling on a Tuesday. So we had to actually move a meeting to a Thursday night because of travel concern, or not travel by council members. And yeah, that's it at this point.
Any questions for Dan?
Dan, this is Tom Lund. I appreciate you taking the time, and I don't want to take a lot of time, but you know how vexed I have been in the past about this overlay. And, you know, sometimes I step back and I think, well, okay, in planning, we've got a lot of young millennials who probably can't afford homes. They don't care about me. And I'm not picking on them either right now. They're just in a different place. And sometimes it feels like we can't, we can't get, there's not much flexibility. They're going to be taller. They're going to be bigger. They may or may not need parking on or off the street, which is a big deal to me. And then I started thinking, well, maybe we could just have one thing. I don't know. It feels like we're pushing a rope. Would we have a chance if we just got the provision that all of the units must have one owner occupying it? Is there a chance to even do that? Because sometimes I feel like we're going through this exercise in futility. We really can't influence it. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion. But I thought, I'd be willing to even eat my words on all those other issues because I have faith if someone who's an owner has part occupancy of part of that property, it'll be better taken care of. It's
Right,
not
Tom?
even a theory to me.
Right.
So anyway, so I'm asking kind of a weird question, but that's my question.
Sure. And right now it's got to go to planning, and I have to believe that was probably included in a bunch of the concerns we had when we sent the concerns to the planning. I know Jan and others have sent a long list of concerns and with some suggestions to planning. So that idea could be in the planning. And now that it's going to planning, I don't really get involved at this point because it's too early for me to get involved because these concerns have been raised to them. When it comes out of planning, let's take a look at that. Is it involved in the ordinance or not? And let's see how we can look at that. So I can't really respond at this time, but we got to keep that on our radar.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that so much. Okay,
right.
Thank you.
And I won't be talking too much on the Go Bond stuff because of I think we already have Tyler's here to do that, and I'll just be kind of quiet listening to the Go Bond because of that.
Okay, Dan, thank you so much. Hannah, you're next. Hannah, nice to have you.
Thanks, Jan. Thanks for having me, everyone. Good to be here with you. I just have a few updates from the mayor's office. I first want to let everyone know that there is a meeting coming up on October 26th that is a chance to weigh in on the Olympic Games coming back to Salt Lake. It's just a listening session. Obviously, this is something that, gets pushed for every time there's a chance. So, I can't say like how far they are in the selection process or anything like that, but this is just a chance for the city to provide information about the potential of our community hosting another Olympic Games and to hear feedback from Salt Lake City residents, business owners, and organizations. So I will actually go ahead and put a link in the chat where you can register for that meeting. There will be 2 meetings on October 26th. One will be an in-person session and one will be an online session. So that's a great chance to attend yourselves as residents, or if any of you are business owners. I'm sure a lot of you still lived here during the 2002 game. So remember, maybe you remember things that were great about that games. Maybe you remember things that could potentially be changed in the future. So just a great chance for everyone to get information on that and share your perspective. I also wanted to announce 2 upcoming funding opportunities coming from the mayor's office. Some of this information is still being ironed out right now, so I don't have materials or links to share with you yet, but as soon as I do have that, I'll be sure to share with Jan so that she can disseminate that to the group. But the first funding opportunity coming up is the ACE grant, which stands for Arts, Culture, and Events, and that'll open up on November 1st. The purpose of this grant is to grow and support neighborhood and community events throughout the city. So there will be a couple of informational sessions available on that grant, but those dates and times are still getting finalized right now. So I'll be sure to share those with Jan as soon as I have that information. The second funding opportunity is the micro grants from the mayor's office that typically go to the community councils, which I'm sure, Jan, you're familiar with. I'm sure a lot of you are as well. These are smaller dollar amounts. I think in the past it's been less than $2,000, I want to say. There's a couple changes that we're making this year, a few tweaks, just to make sure that we're using those funds responsibly and efficiently, and kind of making it more clear the purpose of that grant. We're really hoping that that money can be used to focus on increasing civic engagement in Salt Lake City. And we're hoping to see some creative ideas to engage new residents and maybe potentially partner with other organizations throughout the city to get people involved in local government, get people involved in the community council, and be a part of the great meetings and work that you're all already doing as community members. So I will be sure to share more information with Jan as we have details on the applications and informational sessions on those grant opportunities for you all.
Great.
Also, tentatively want to announce there will be a meeting coming in the next little bit with Mayor Mendenhall and Councilmember Dugan. We are just working on confirming a date on that, so I'm sorry that I don't have more details yet, but hopefully you can all keep an eye on your inboxes and look forward to attending that meeting in person for a chance to speak with the mayor and Councilmember Dugan and get some questions answered. And that'll be a combined meeting with all of the community councils in District 6. So this is a great chance to talk about district-wide issues and things that you are passionate about, things that you are top priorities for your community. So that's all I have, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Do you have the meeting with Dan and the mayor? That's going to be live and in person. Is that correct, Hannah?
Correct.
Great. But we are also thinking about carrying it on Zoom, but that will be up to us to kind of make that happen, correct?
Sure. Yeah. And we appreciate all of the community councils in District 6, including Yellcrest, for being flexible and being willing to partner for that event.
Well, we're happy to have you and happy to host you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dawn. Dawn, we're so glad to have you here. He is going to tell us how to keep our houses upright.
Upright.
In case there's
We hope upright.
in case the earthquake. And you know, I know that this guy is so famous, really, and well known, and he's being modest. He probably wouldn't agree with that, but we would. Those of us who know Don really is the premier state expert on this subject. And Don, we're so pleased that you were able to join us and be with us. So we're going to turn the time over to you. We are right on time tonight, and take it away, Don.
Okay, Jan, thank you very much. I need to make one correction from the program. I'm no longer associated with the Utah State Historic Preservation Office, but I'm still an architect, and I focused most of my career on existing and especially historic buildings. And you can't talk about old buildings in Utah without talking about seismic safety, earthquakes and seismic safety. So that's what we're going to do here for a few minutes tonight, talk about seismic safety, earthquakes for your old homes here in the Yellcrest neighborhood. And in order to do that, I'm going to use some images and a short video. And so if you will bear with me for a moment while I go to the screens, set my screen up here, I'll be right back with you. Jan, can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. Let's try this one again. It keeps cutting out. Okay, we good?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So, given the short amount of time tonight, I just want to introduce a few concepts and show you where you can find some more information about safety for your home. But first, let's just talk about earthquakes in general. Let's bring it home. Now, does anyone not know that we live? I wish I could see a show of hands here. Anyone not know that we live in a seismic zone? You can see on this map here, the blue line on the left edge of the map shows where the fault cuts through across 13th East and at the eastern edge of the Yellcrest community neighborhood. And up in the very upper right, or excuse me, left-hand corner of the screen, then you can see East High and get a pretty good picture. So the reason I'm showing this one is because, you know, given this proximity, when the fault slips, we can all count on some pretty good shaking. And so when will the fault slip? Scientists don't have the ability to predict yet anything with accuracy, but here's a timeline going back 6,000 years. Each of these dots represent an earthquake sufficient enough to cause ground rupture. And you can see along at the top the Brigham City segment. If I'm Brigham City, I'm going to be getting nervous. You can see a pattern to these things. Salt Lake City, we're getting to a point where we can expect one. You know, we talk about this in 6,000 years, and you're thinking, what are you thinking? You know, but we're talking geologic time here. And so, how do we know all of this? How do we know what's imminent? Soil scientists and geologists and engineers go out here into the foothills and they dig these long trenches across where the ground has shifted vertically. These fault scarps provide a pretty accurate record of what happened. And once they expose them, then they can date the organic material around them and get really a very clear picture of the dates of when those events occurred. And that photo that says 13-meter high fault scarp, that translates to really about 40 feet. So you can see how dramatically the land can shift in a very serious seismic event. So what really makes this an issue in Hillcrest, or in Yellcrest, excuse me, until the 1960s, most buildings in the Salt Lake Valley were constructed of unreinforced masonry. That means they do not have any reinforcing in the walls, in the masonry walls as we would have now. And the other important factor with these buildings is that all of the building components, the outside walls, the rafters, the floor, the ceiling joists, they were not tied together securely attached together as they would be in a modern building or in modern construction. Pretty much everything is just held in place with gravity, with minimal attachments. So these masonry structures are durable and they were built well to resist gravity loads, but not lateral loads from an earthquake. And that unreinforced masonry, that's where we get the term URM. We all live in URMs. So then what happens? What can you do to make your URM safer? Well, maybe we can start with talking about what effect ground motion might have on it. Earthquake motion, ground motion occurs in waves of two different patterns. Some push side to side or front to back. Other waves are more of a traditional pattern with troughs and crests. And so all of these forces produce a shoving motion, starting with the foundation. And you see those little diagrams along the bottom. Shear is most likely what we are going to encounter here with our rigid, heavy buildings. And then the other thing that happens is that as these forces are introduced into the foundation, they all sort of get multiplied or levered up through the height of the building walls, the roofs and chimneys. And so this is why, you know, when you see the earthquake damage like this from the Magna earthquake in 2020, the parapet walls peel away, the tops of the walls fail, chimneys break, collapse. You see less damage around the ground. It's really the upper portions of the building where those forces are most have most effect. Now, given all of this, then the goal of most seismic retrofitting techniques is to capture all of the forces that are introduced into the building and bring them down back through the building into the earth through what is known as a continuous load path. Again, homes that were built prior to the 70s were not constructed with a continuous load path. They now have more positive attachments and lateral force resisting walls. So all of these pieces of your home, your rafters, your ceiling joists, your floor joists, your walls, all have to be tied to one another to increase the seismic resistance. And to show, to kind of emphasize this a little bit and get a little bit, kind of summarize some of the things I've mentioned here, I want to use this video that was prepared by Salt Lake City Fix the Bricks program. In the video, they're going to talk about a grant program. Unfortunately, the grant program ran out of funds and they haven't been able to refund that yet. So they had qualified for some FEMA money that went quickly. And so let's just jump into the video and see what we can learn.
This is Patrick. So as a reminder, you'll want to switch the audio. Right now, we're not getting any audio with your video clip.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's still no audio.
No audio, Dawn. We had audio earlier when we ran the test. Can you take it back to the beginning?
Older homes give our communities character. But if you're an owner of an older home made with bricks or concrete blocks, you need to take some steps to help your home keep its character and survive an earthquake. Before the 1970s, home building standards were not as strict as they are today. Homes built before then with bricks or concrete blocks and mortar weren't designed to resist strong earthquake forces. Typically, the roof and floor systems weren't attached to walls as securely as they are now. Walls themselves didn't have the needed reinforcement. Homes built this way are referred to as unreinforced masonry buildings, or URMs for short. When earthquakes strike, walls fail, homes shift off their foundations, and chimneys collapse. There are fixes that can be made that'll keep all this together. Let me introduce you to Burke Hills. He's a contractor with experience in making URM homes safer. Hi, Burke.
Hi.
So, Burke, what are you doing here?
We are doing a seismic upgrade to this home. We're working on the roof-to-wall connections and also bracing the chimney. What this will do is it will make this house less likely to collapse in the event of an earthquake.
When you're doing these repairs or these upgrades, how do you know what to fix?
There's a structural engineer that has designed this work for this house, and he has given us the details of what needs to be done to make this house safer. And we know how to do that kind of work, and we take care of it.
So if I'm a homeowner and I'm trying to decide when a good time is to do this kind of work, what would you tell me?
Well, there's always a good time to do it, but it's probably more economical if you were going to re-roof your house, say. That would be a great time to also do the seismic upgrade at the same time.
Getting your URM home strengthened doesn't guarantee it won't suffer damage in an earthquake. But with walls and roof firmly anchored together and the chimney braced, there's less chance of collapse and the injuries that would follow. Audrey Pierce manages a financial grant program that helps people pay for upgrades.
As we started talking to people, we found that they did have some barriers to getting the work done, in that they either were unsure of how to get started, or they didn't realize just how unstructured their unreinforced masonry home was. And then as they would try to get bids on how much it was going to cost them, then they ran into money barriers as far as getting the work done. So when we found the way as a city to be able to help provide some of that to them, we've now got a list of people that are getting the work done and a list of people that are waiting to get the work done.
Let's meet Ryan. He's the homeowner. So, Ryan, what do you tell somebody when they say something like, I can't afford to do this kind of work?
It is a little expensive, but when you take into account safety, I don't know that you can really put a price tag on safety. You know, older homes need a lot of repair, and this is kind of one more repair that needs to be done.
Good on you, Ryan, for making your home safer. Take 20 minutes to research when your brick or concrete block home was constructed. The title to your house should have that information, or you can find out from your county clerk. Then take another 20 minutes to find a contractor experienced in making homes safer in case of an earthquake. Thanks for watching.
Visit kbyutv.org to get your free 20 to Ready emergency preparedness guide.
All right, Jan, am I unmuted? Can you hear me okay?
Can hear you, yes.
Okay. All right, let's see. And okay, so there should be a detail on your screen.
You want to borrow a little more time, Dawn, and finish so that you can present everything you need to present?
Let's see. Yes, I've got just a couple more slides.
Yeah, go ahead. We want to make
And
sure
so-
you get the time you need, and you may have some
Okay.
questions too. We just want to get a heads up to our next two presenters that we may run over a little bit, and that's fine.
Okay, I'm just actually going to wrap it up here, Jan.
No,
So
that's okay. Take your time.
this detail that you see is a detail that Utah Seismic Safety Commission went through and surveyed unreinforced masonry buildings, and they grouped them together in various types based on age and construction details. And they have developed a set of standard or typical details for doing this type of anchoring with the various building types. I'll show you where these things live. This is a detail showing how this is kind of the work that was happening in the video, where they're tying the roof structure, the rafters, down to the top of the masonry walls. It shows an older version of the detail with a large epoxy bolt shoved down into the brick, and the detail of what was happening on the video with those two helical pins being driven down into the masonry. These are typical details. They can be used pretty much as is. It might be a good idea if you have something different. If you can look at your home, you may want to have these details checked and modified to suit your particular situation in your house. And so with that, let me show you a couple of sources of information here. Oh, and one last thought: brace your water heaters. It's cheap, it's easy to do, and there's typically more damage in an earthquake caused by fire than by building collapse. And so, you know, your water heater, your other major gas-fired appliances, your large furniture pieces, make sure you brace those things. So here's some sources of information. Both of these publications, Putting Down Roots and the Utah Guide for Seismic Improvements, are both available at the Utah Seismic Safety Commission website, ussc.utah.gov. The Utah Guide for the Seismic Improvement of Unreinforced Masonry Dwellings is where you find all of those details, like the one that I just showed you. There's a wealth of information in that publication about structural improvements for various types of homes. And then a couple more, bracing for the big one. It's one that my office did several years ago. Focuses on historic buildings, and the Fix the Bricks program. Like I say, they don't have the grant money available, but they still got a lot of nice resources posted at their website. And so with that, that concludes my presentation, and thanks for listening.
Any questions for Dawn?
Don, this is Tom Lund. You know how small my house is. It's about 2,100 square feet, and that's 2 floors. Approximately, what would the cost be for a house like that?
Well, here's where I'm gonna hum and haw a little bit. You know, with the cost, here's the disclaimer, Tom. With the cost of construction skyrocketing like it has been in the Valley over the past couple of years, it's a little difficult to say, but if you were to do this type of work as was recommended, at the same time you're re-roofing your house, it would add a few $1,000s more to the project.
Wow,
if you're
that's it.
spending $15,000 for a new roof, which isn't hard to do these days if you have a full tear off, it could be that much, and add a few more thousand to take care of the seismic anchors and bracing your chimney.
Thank you so much. That's great to know.
You're welcome, Tom.
Well, we all hope that we're ready for whatever comes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, this is like all other insurance. You hope you never have to use it. You get it and you hope you never have to use it. So with that, I will check out. Thank you, Jan.
Well, we just need to know your address because we're sure your home is reinforced. So if we all need to evacuate and head to your house, we can all run over there and
I'd be very happy to show you what I did. That's grounds for another another presentation. Unfortunately, it's like the cobbler's kids that have holes in their shoes. I've been so busy doing this, I haven't braced my own chimney yet. So
no,
that's my next task. All right, thank you all.
Thank you, Don. And we are going to move right along to Tyler. And Tyler, I've been struggling to pronounce your last name. I'm going to let you do it for us. Tyler is from Public Lands, and Tyler's going to give us a little briefing on the new general obligation bond, the 85 million for parks and public lands. So Tyler, take it away.
Thanks, Jan. It's Fawnero, Tyler Fawnero. Fawn like a baby deer, row like a rowboat, Fawnero. Yes, I'm Tyler Fawnero. I am the Recreational Trails Manager for Salt Lake City Public Lands. And I'm actually just a neighbor down the road over in Wasatch Hollow. So I was excited to volunteer to present to you all information tonight about the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Bond. We have 3 council meetings tonight, so we had to kind of diversify and get around the city. So I work in the planning and communications team as well as operations manager for the Foothills Natural Area and Jordan River Corridor. So because of the strict legal obligations required, I'm going to be reading from a script on the presentation of the slides here. It'll probably take 10, 12 minutes. And then hopefully, if you're like me, you received this handy dandy thing in the mail today. So if you didn't check your mail yet, go get it. And this will probably answer a lot of the questions that you have tonight that I may or may not be able to answer, as well as the website that I'll put in the chat regarding my presentation tonight. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go to that one. And I'm going to share that. Excellent. I'm going to put this in the chat so everyone can see that. I just put my contact information in the chat, as well as the website, as well as the email. You feel free to email me if you have questions, but the parksbond@slcgov.com will be your most direct response for questions. So welcome to the Yale Crest Neighborhood Council presentation of our Parks, Trails, and Open Space Bond. Let's see if, whoops. Let me see if I can actually work it. Sorry, I'm trying to go to my next slide. There it is. This November, Salt Lake City voters have an opportunity to vote on the Parks, Trails, and Open Space General Obligation, or GO bond. This bond provides the opportunity to build on existing investments to enhance the public land system. If passed, the city plans to fund 8 significant projects across the city, shown in this map and described in greater detail on the project website. The bond projects were identified through public input, the priorities expressed in the Reimagine Nature Public Lands Master Plan in 2022, preliminary polling data, geographic distribution, equity and level of service across the city, and the mayor's 2022 plan. Project budgets plus a 20% contingency add up to $85 million. The bond funding, if approved, will implement components of the Reimagine Nature Master Plan. Project highlights include help constructing the new Glendale Regional Park at the old Raging Water Park site on 17th South, to add new regional park amenities to the west side and alleviate the pressures of significant use at Liberty and Sugar House Parks. Create new parks, including playgrounds and trails in Glendale and the Granary District, where there are currently very few green spaces to play. Update aged facilities and increase community identity for at least one neighborhood park, trail, or open space per council district and at Allen, Fairmont, and Liberty Parks. Improve degraded waterway to enhance water quality, pollinator habitat, and migratory nesting grounds. Complete the connection of the Folsom Trail to the Jordan River Parkway Trail and add landscaping and additional trail amenities improved east-west connections, and provide easier access for biking and walking to and between these public spaces. Increase the city's tree canopy and plant biodiversity and restore natural landscapes in parks and open spaces that use less water and are adapted to our arid climate. All bond projects include comprehensive community engagement to determine final design and implementation plans. Before any park, trail, or open space is redesigned or rebuilt, the city will ask for community feedback to understand how each project can help these public spaces better serve our neighborhoods. Public input, master plans, and best practices will be used to inform decisions for each project and determine how improvements are prioritized. Planning and other critical steps for some of the projects to be funded by the bond are complete. Those are shown here, and others, those on the next slide, will begin very soon. You can view the Glendale Regional Park Vision Plan online when you visit our website. The Allen Park Adaptive Use and Management Plan is anticipated to begin this fall and will include a public engagement process to help identify the opportunities for priority improvements this bond could fund. The Liberty Park Playground and the Jordan River enhancements will begin if funding is approved by voters. If bond funding is approved, other projects, those shown here, will proceed with more planning and public engagement opportunities, including completion of the Folsom Trail, reimagine neighborhood parks, trails, and open spaces, improvements to Fairmount Park, and the Fleet Block. All bond-funded projects will include comprehensive community engagement to determine final design and implementation plans. Public engagement for each project will be determined based on the needs of the site and the current status of public project input. Sign up for the Public Lands monthly newsletter found on the Public Lands website, or email parksbond@slcgov.com to stay informed throughout. I've already put that email in the chat. Why is bond funding being considered? Currently, 26% of the city's general fund budget comes from the property taxes. Of the total general fund budget, approximately 18 million is allocated to fund public lands. Much of that budget is directed to the maintenance of our existing system, and many assets in the system are beyond a reasonable level of maintenance. From 2010 to 2020, Salt Lake City grew by 7%, adding approximately 13,000 new residents. The 2019 Public Lands Needs Assessment identified the need for an additional 94 acres of outdoor space to avoid overcrowding existing parks and trails. This growth also increases the use of wear and tear on our existing public land system. If approved, bond funding would help the city add more usable park and public land space in multiple locations, helping to spread the demand by making parks more accessible and by replacing aged infrastructure that currently requires more maintenance. In the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Bond, if the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Bond is not approved by voters, the Public Lands Department will continue to receive its annual budget for maintenance and small improvements, while continuing to see opportunities to fund the proposed improvements. The department typically receives some capital improvement program funding each year, which is specifically targeted to replace or expand the city's existing infrastructure. If the Public Lands Department only relies on CIP funds projects, the city will continue to respond to the public priorities at the existing pace. The current public land system includes 1,879 acres of natural land, 865 acres of parkland, 3 event parks, 2 regional parks, 15 community parks, 19 neighborhood parks, 42 mini parks, 70.7 miles of trail, 7 golf courses, the regional athletic center, and more than 90,000 trees. This averages to about 13.59 acres of park and natural area acreage per 1,000 residents, the column on the left of this slide. Comparably sized cities like Boise, Idaho, and Des Moines, Iowa maintain 18 acres per 1,000 residents and 19 acres per 1,000 residents, respectively. If the bonds are approved by voters and all are issued at the same time and not taking into account existing bonds that will be paid off over time, the estimated property taxes to be paid the bonds would be approximately $53.80 per year, or less than $5 per month on an average primary residence valued at $576,000, and $97.83 per year for a business or secondary residence of the same value. If the bonds are approved by voters and are issued in 2 or more installments, depending on market conditions, it is possible that the cost of the bonds would not increase the existing property tax burden. If the bonds are not approved by voters, the property tax burden would decrease as a result of other general obligation bonds being paid off. These are important dates to know. The public hearing occurred 2 nights ago, but the public meeting is on October 18th. You can share your comments for or against it on October 18th. Elected officials will share the argument in favor of the bond at the public meeting on October 18th. Visit the City Council website shown in the slide, www.slc.gov/council, for more information about how to participate in meeting in person or virtually. Other dates about voting by mail, in-person early voting, and other deadlines are included as well. We invite everyone to learn more about the bond and its associated projects, register to vote, and stay informed with future updates. If you aren't already registered to vote, please visit vote.utah.gov to get started. If you're just now registering and desire to vote by mail, please make sure that you request a ballot from the Salt Lake County Clerk. Please stay in touch. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Tyler? You can raise your hand on your little screen thing, or you can just speak up. I think some of the buzz that we got over here on the east side, Tyler, I'll just speak up, is obviously much of this is going to be on the west side, and I think we are one city, one united city, and I've really like the fact that we are going to put an investment into our parks. So I like what's being presented. I think the question is, what can we do here on the east side to maybe see some improvements to some of the things that we need, and how do we fix that?
Sure. I think obviously a lot of thinking went into the budgets of our current inventory, what parks that currently exist. But I would reach out to Councilman Dugan, reach out to the Parks Bond at slcgov.com, and be involved and stay involved if the bond passes on how the money in your district is allocated.
Yeah, and I feel that, as the city continues to grow and we densify, more people are going to want to get outside and take advantage of recreating. And where are they going to recreate? And we ought to have those opportunities available to them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. Thank you.
If there are any more questions, I just want to look around the room here. Okay. We will hop over to Josh Van Jura. Did I pronounce your name, Josh? I hope I did. And we're going to let you take it away. Our team from UDOT. I know Brianna is also here. Josh, I hope we had some technical things that we were able to work out before the meeting started. We weren't able to see you in that event, but hopefully you're going to just sail along and you know how to do this.
Well, here's hoping. I've certainly had the opportunity to do a lot of Zoom meetings since August 31st. So
did I make you a co-host? First of all, I want to make sure, because I don't know when you think you may have arrived. Let me see if I've got you on here. I need to make you a co-host. Okay, I've just made you a co-host.
There we go. I got a whole
Anna, do
new-
you need to be a co-host? Are you? I can't hear you.
Oh, hi, Jen. Thanks. No, I won't need to be a co-host. I'll just be
All right.
here kind of filling in for Josh and dropping relevant links in
Great.
the chat.
Okay, great. So you are ready to go, Josh? You are a co-host and you've got the screen.
Perfect. Well, let me just start this slideshow. I will be quick. Let's see if I actually chose the right screen. Is that the right screen, Bree, or is that the wrong screen?
I see your desktop. Great
Okay.
meeting photo, though. Looks
Yeah,
fabulous.
That's very cool.
That is not what I wanted to share. I apologize. Ugh.
They
Some
did choose
days,
the right
right?
project manager, as we're all skiers.
So maybe I should have been there for the practice, because apparently my confidence is failing me right now. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. Second try is a charm. Well, thank you so much for having us. I'm Josh Van Jura. I'm UDOT's project manager for the Little Cottonwood EIS. Hopefully everybody had some time to go through the videos that are on our website. I would give you the website, but honestly, you'll just forget it. The easiest way to find it is just Google Little Cottonwood Canyon EIS. It's the first thing that comes up. All the documents are on there, fact sheets, and of course, the full document and all the comments. So I'm going to go really fast. I'm undoubtedly going to skip over a lot of information you might have questions on, because we've been at this for about 4.5 years, and there's 17,000 pages of documentation that I'm going to try and fit in 8 minutes. So let's see how we do. So for this project, our goal is to improve the safety, reliability, and mobility. So today it takes about 20 minutes if there's no traffic to get from the 7-Eleven at the mouth of Beg up to Alpha. But in 2050, that's actually expected to be 80 to 85 minutes, 50 days a year, due to population growth and recreation growth. Also, this results in some super long congested traffic along Wasatch and 94th. Almost 2.5 miles is expected. And we certainly see that today when there's avalanche closures. But again, 50 days a year, which makes it really hard for residents to get into and out of their house. Some of the public, I'm going to skip over some slides, interim slides here just for brevity. But two of the themes, or these are the themes we saw from our draft EIS. The two that kind of caught my attention were support for tolling and support for phased implementation. And that's exactly what we proposed as on August 31st. As I'm sure you've all seen in newspapers and on the various news channels, UDOT did select Gondola B as the preferred alternative with phased implementation. I'll get more to the phased implementation in a minute, because I think that's a real important component of the plan. But the alternative, I'm sure you've heard this. Basically, this is a little different than any gondola you might be familiar with, unless you've had the opportunity to ski in Whistler recently. Each cabin holds 35 people, and a new cabin would arrive every 2 minutes. Just for reference, an average UTA ski bus holds 42 people and arrives every 15 minutes today. So a little less capacity, but much higher frequency. Also important, capital cost for the entire system is $550 million, with a yearly operation and maintenance costs of $4 million. But this includes upgrades to Wasatch Boulevard, snow sheds, tolling infrastructure, trail improvements. So the price of the gondola, as you can see here, just on its own is $335 million. And the rest of that is really commonalities between all 5 of the proposed alternatives. We did look at over 20 different environmental impacts, right? This is an environmental impact study. So we looked at things like air quality, water quality, noise, environmental justice to make sure that we aren't pricing out low-income communities, and really, you know, dozens of other ones as well to make sure that we're doing this and completely understand what the impacts are and making the decision. The reasons, the big 3 reasons why UDOT selected Gondola B were: 1, it has higher travel time reliability, right? I think we all know that buses get stuck, especially during adverse weather associated with slow moving vehicles and slide offs. And the fact that this works in a separate alignment really adds to that reliability of the system. The other part is, of course, the environmental impacts. But the third part is, if you look at the overall 30-year life cycle, this actually has the lowest overall cost. It's right in the middle for initial capital costs, but for overall life cycle, it is the lowest when you consider a 30-year life cycle at that $4 million a year. We understand that visual is, you know, a big concern for many people, both Canyon users and not. This is an incredibly special place to so many of us. So we did a lot of, I'm going to call them artistic renderings. Technically, they're called key observation points, and we did them from the point of view of roadway users, recreational users, climbers, residents, and these can all be found in the document. With regards to phasing, you've probably heard this before, but UDOT doesn't have $550 million for this project right now. But we all recognize that the Canyon does have significant backing problems today. Last year, there were 42 individual hours over 24 days where the travel time was more than 40 minutes. And only half of those days was it actually snowing. So recognizing we don't have the money and that it could take years really to get the either federal funding, state funding, and or private funding, but realizing we have issues today that are very real, we propose this phase implementation to take care of both the short-term needs and the long-term needs. So in the short term, our goal is to improve and increase the current bus service, add more parking so people can utilize that bus service, and also implement a tolling or traffic demand management strategy to incentivize people to take that bus in the short term. And then we'll do the other things like constructing snow sheds, widening Wasatch trailheads in, you know, as money comes along on the road down to constructing the gondola in the future. I do want to spend a little bit of extra time on tolling, mainly because Jan, you asked me to. So obviously, so I grew up in Pennsylvania. I'm a 25-year resident of Utah. But, you know, I think it's interesting that tolling is not necessarily a very popular idea in the Intermountain West. I grew up taking the Pennsylvania Turnpike, you know, going across the George Washington Bridge, the Lincoln Tunnel, right? So when the themes from those comments showed support for tolling, I'm not going to lie, I was surprised, but I was also happy. Because I think tolling is a great traffic demand management study because it's really helping people change their behaviors. And this is the people that are directly using the canyon. So we did a statistically valid study of canyon users. You can find it again on the website. It's pretty lengthy, but the gist of it is to get enough traffic removed from the roadway such that you know, one lane up, one lane down mountainous road flows smoothly, we need to remove roughly 30% of the traffic. And so to get that 30% reduction, we anticipate a toll in the $25 to $30 range from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., roughly 50 days per ski season. We did some KOPs or artistic renderings of the neighborhood. You can see, oops, that wasn't supposed to happen. You know, the gondola tower in the background. This is the parking structure in Cottonwood Heights. And again, all this information is in that 12 and 9-minute slideshow. I suggest you watch that. Bree and I put a lot of effort into trying to condense 1,700 pages down. So hopefully it's helpful. And yeah, that's the point, right? So we are proposing trailheads, public comment period. It started back on August 31st. It ends next Monday evening. And when I say next Monday evening, I mean at the last possible minute on Monday there is, which is 11:59 p.m. Right? So we will be taking comments. There's no, right? And if we want to be technical, that's Mountain Standard Time. So, right, you got about, well, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You got about 3.5, 4 days. Well, 4 days and a couple hours from right now to submit your comments. Please take the time to do so. You can find the comment form on our website. You can leave us a voicemail. You can shoot us a text. There's a million ways to do it. I personally read every single one of the 14,000 comments we got last time. As of today, Bree, I think you texted me that we were at 7,700 comments this far. And I say keep them coming, right? Because the better we understand people's concerns, the better chance we have to analyze all the alternatives and really make the most informed decision possible. That wasn't too bad. That was 10 minutes, not 8. So what is there any questions? What can I help with?
Thank you so much, Josh. This is a very complex issue. It has been controversial. You know that, we all know that. But in fairness to you, we wanted to hear from you. I had the opportunity of seeing the videos that have been prepared by UDOT, and they're really informative. If you get a chance to go online, I think we all ought to be informed, make up our minds based on some of the facts that are presented to us, and kind of go from there. Any questions for Josh?
I have one regarding the tolling. When you say $25, you mean per trip? Is there anything discounted for the people, residents that live there, or frequency pass at, HOV? Do you have any more detail on that?
So we haven't, it's unlikely there would be a season pass, in all honesty, because that kind of gets away from getting that traffic reduction. I'm not saying it's off the table. I'm just saying it's unlikely. So some of those details haven't been worked out. The automated detection for occupancy, in all reality, just isn't there yet, right? There's companies testing in LA, there's companies testing it in the Phoenix area, but the accuracy in a snowy environment just isn't there yet. So there's an option. I hope it's close. We will certainly consider that, because if we can up the occupancy, we can help offset the problem. But yeah, the technology just isn't there yet to, commit to it, if that makes sense.
So there's no additional bus service. Like, so if you're getting the people off the road, how are they getting up the mountain? There's no gondola.
So there is additional bus service.
Okay, so where's the parking for that? Just kind of expand on that a little bit, just in a minute.
Yeah. So we anticipate that there would be additional parking at the Walker gravel pit right there north of Big Cottonwood. And the exact number of parking stalls and the exact number of buses, is a little bit TBD based on the available funding. But those two areas combined with tolling will be the first areas of focus. Under the 2050 plan, we had buses every 5 minutes. I say currently, but what I meant to say was previously, up until about 2 weeks ago, UTA had standard 15-minute service. I'm sure many of you heard that, they're having labor shortages, just like UDA's having a hard time hiring plow drivers right now. And Del Taco's paying $17 an hour, right? I mean, I think everybody's seeing this, but hopefully that's a short-term problem and a long-term planning effort. So we do anticipate service somewhere in that, better than 15-minute service, but probably not down to 5, just because we don't see that demand yet.
Any other questions? Great opportunity to ask them. Believe me, this is a big issue for Utah and for this valley.
Yeah, please take the time to watch that video. I love doing these things because honestly, there is so much misinformation out there, right? We can't even control it. People tell me about things they heard, like my friends, and they're like, is this true? And I'm like, no, that's crazy talk. We've never said anything like that. So again, please use our website, use those videos. We have an entire podcast series. If you really need something to do for like 6 or 7 hours of your life and you're, taking a road trip, we have lots of information out there. And again, please come to the source for the info, because we can't manage all the false information on Reddit and Facebook and Instagram and honestly, dinner parties, right? It's just everywhere.
Brianna, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I've been dropping links in the chat for all these videos. So Jan, I think if you'd like to include that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, just trying to make this a little bit more accessible. But yeah, I kind of agreed with Josh. We're trying to put out as much information as we can. And we know the 1,700 pages is a bit much for a lot of folks who are very busy, but between the 2 videos, we'd also recommend taking a look at the executive summary as well. It does touch on some of the key questions and comments that we've been receiving throughout the study, and it provides a really good synapse of why the alternatives were selected, a summary of the impacts and the components of each of the alternatives, because it is, as Josh said, quite a complicated package. So a lot of that summary information is there, so that it's also a great resource that's a little bit more consumable than maybe 32 chapters of technical information. The other thing that I would like to add as well is that, we've had a lot of requests for folks to see the public comments, where did we get those themes? The comments are published on the website. I'll drop a link in the chat. There's actually an entire volume of the EIS dedicated to the public comments that we received, along with the responses to those comments. That document itself is chapter 32, responses to comments, and it's a great resource that really does clarify a lot of the common questions that we received, because the questions that we received are also kind of viewed as comments, so we respond to them the same way as we do with the statement, but that's got a lot of great info in there as well for folks to continue to review even after the comment period is over, because, we got a little bit of time before this is decided.
We do. If there are no more questions, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank all of you for coming, listening, participating. Thanks to our presenters. And we'll see you in November, but we also may have a meeting with Dan and the mayor. We'll see when that's going to be scheduled. We'll let you know about that. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.